And there is something that we have to read before we start the meeting. And that is that the meeting is video and audio recorded, and all electronic meetings are uploaded to the municipality's YouTube page. By registering to participate in the meeting by electronic means, you are consenting to have your likeness and comments recorded and posted on YouTube. Okay, so if everyone is aware of that and everyone has their go-to-meeting attire on, we can call the meeting to order. Quick roll call. Hillary, are you there? Courtney there?
Hi, John, we're here.
Oh, okay. Sorry, guys, you were so quiet there. So the roll call being that in attendance is Mary Tivy. I think she was here. Yes, she is. There she is. Matt Bulmer, Barb Jefferson, myself, and John Levac. As for opening remarks, my only opening remarks are that I'm glad to see everybody, and I'm glad to see that everyone is safe and healthy, I think. Are there any other remarks that we need to start the meeting, Hillary?
Let's take a look. I don't believe so, unless anybody else has anything that they'd like to add for the opening remarks.
Okay, thank you. Any disclosures of pecuniary interests? None. Now I call for the minutes of the January 11th, 2021 Heritage Committee meeting. Has everyone had a chance to look at those? And if so, are there any comments? If not, I would ask for a motion to approve the minutes. John? Someone?
Sure. I'll approve. I'll put that motion forward.
Thank you. Barb, Matt?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor?
Oh, John, sorry, we've got a resolution to read for that as well.
Oh, yes, you use these resolutions. My God, this is such a strange format for me. I do apologize.
That's okay, John. So we've got resolution number 2021-007, that the minutes of the January 11th, 2021 Heritage Committee meeting minutes be adopted and as written and distributed. And that's been carried.
Okay, and we have approved them. I think we can take that approval forward. Is there any business arising from the minutes? Hillary, is there anything that was arising from the minutes? I don't believe so.
I don't think so. I think anything that we've got will be covered in the committee report section.
Okay.
Can I ask a question there of John and Hillary?
Mm-hmm.
Under our goals and objectives, that lovely chart that we now have to work with, I believe it was Mary who asked that the committee members be identified. And did we decide on a chair of each of those committees?
I don't think each of the committees had a chair. I know we've got members of each of the committees, but I think if the subcommittee would like to have a chair of that, I think that would be okay. But we also have that as item 10.1 in our committee report. So it's coming up very shortly, Barb.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Hillary.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Barb. Everyone has been distributed the agenda, and I presume, Hillary, that we have a resolution to adopt the agenda as presented.
I don't think we do, but we can definitely put one in.
No, we don't need, no
more resolutions. Okay.
No, we don't need one.
Okay.
The agenda is as published, and I guess we move. We don't have any delegations or correspondence, I don't think, at this point in time, so we can move into the agenda, which are the committee reports. And Hillary, it's over to you.
It is. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to be looking at is the Heritage Committee goals and objectives for 2021 and 2022. Courtney, are we able to pull that up from the agenda? Or would it be better, because I think, does everybody have that in front of them?
Mm-hmm.
Hillary,
Yeah,
I can
do,
screen
don't-
share it. I can allow screen sharing if you wanted to, just so it's on the recording if you'd like, for the benefit of anybody watching the meeting.
Perfect. I think that would be great. Thank you.
Sure. There you go.
Okay, so actually just give me 1 second. Okay, perfect. Can everybody see this okay?
Well, mine says
Yeah.
Hillary has started screen sharing.
Oh, there
Oh,
we go.
there it is. Pretty good.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so we've got our table here. So the first item would be the quarterly reporting to council on heritage initiatives and progress. So the person responsible would be myself for that. And we submitted our first report to council when council had their last meeting, just kind of regarding the Heritage Committee's goals and objectives, and also the Heritage Registry, which we'll get into a little bit later in this meeting. And it was very well received by council. I think council really appreciated the updates that the Heritage Committee provided to them, and we'll keep going with the updates following every meeting, and it'll be a report that will go to council. All right,
Thanks,
so
Hillary.
Just, may I have a question on that item, Mr. Chair?
Of course, Matt, please.
Yeah, I thank you, Hillary, for that. Yes, it was well received. But I realized I was just looking at our next meeting and council's meeting schedules. I just want to keep an eye on this, that is quarterly maybe too much. If this committee is only meeting quarterly, will we have enough to report to warrant the staff time to produce that report on a quarterly basis? And I just want to put the question to the committee, that would we be comfortable became an annual or semi-annual report, or this quarterly reporting was fixed as quarterly? If there's nothing to report, do we need to have staff writing reports?
That's a good point, Matt. Hillary, what are your thoughts on that, in that you're kind of the point person on this?
I don't think it's too much trouble to write a report, but yeah, I definitely understand your point, Matt. If there isn't anything to report, yeah, I don't think that a report would be warranted. I do think we have a lot coming down sort of the pipe for this year, so I think like a report will be necessary. So it could be on a as needed basis, or I don't know. What does the committee think about that?
John,
Um,
I'll just go around the table.
yeah, I think I'm with Matt on this. I think quarterly is a
Quarterly
bit.
as needed.
Yeah, I think that's right, Matt, yourself.
Yeah, because we are going to have progress updates. But that makes me more comfortable that way, that it's not just regardless if we have anything to say. So, perfect, thank you.
Okay.
Barb?
I agree. I like the idea of a progress update. Is council aware of this chart we have, Hillary, this, our goals and objectives for the upcoming year?
I believe they are. I believe they got that after our last meeting. So that's correct, right, Matthew?
Yes, they're so
Perfect.
well aware of it that the Rec Commission wanted to have the same thing for their committee, and they had staff prepare a goals and objectives program for them as well. So it has been well received and adopted by their committees.
In that case, I like the
Sorry,
idea.
go ahead, Barb.
In that case, I like the idea of sort of progress reports, whether that needs to come as a formal report. But I think it's important that we be accountable and that we are moving forward with our objectives.
Yeah,
Okay, great.
Mary, we haven't heard from you. Any comments? Mary?
I think Mary has got her mic on mute.
I think so. Yes, she
Sorry,
does.
guys. That was not a voluntary
Mary,
mute. Well, I would like to proceed with quarterly reports, and there are a couple reasons for that. One of which is it keeps us to task, and it keeps us with a certain exposure to council. And I think that especially with the goals and objectives in this chart, we will need council support for much of that work. It may be that at a quarter, our report is there is nothing to report. But I think it's a very good practice to have quarterly reports when we are a statutory committee.
Okay, it's a good point, Mary. My thought would be, I'm inclined to agree with Matt that it's almost on an as needed basis, but I think even if there is nothing to report, we should report that there is nothing to report. And you're right, Mary. It keeps our name in front of the council.
Well,
But
and
I think
if I can just add
ahead.
to that, I mean, it may be that there is nothing sort of new to report, but a report can say that these goals and objectives are in progress or are proceeding or something to that degree, so that things just don't lapse the way they sometimes do.
Yep. No, your point's well taken. Any other comments? Are you okay with that, Hillary?
Yeah, absolutely. So I will leave it as it is, and that quarterly reporting will continue to go to council from the Heritage Committee.
Okay. Okay, next
right.
item.
Okay, so the next item we have are the Doors of Pleasant posters. So we've got John Arnold and John Levac on that subcommittee. I also have this as another item within the agenda. I'm not sure if either of the Johns want to comment on this. I know you've both done some research into this.
Okay,
Yeah,
I can make a quick comment on the availability of printing. We certainly can have them reprinted. That's not going to be an issue. The only issue is budgeting for it. And as John, I'll steal a bit of your thunder. As John pointed out, the more we print, the cheaper they get. And it would be nice to have 500 or 1,000 of them, because the cost difference between 500 and 1,000, if I remember correctly, Johnny, was just almost negligible. Well, not negligible, but very minimal to increase the run. The only problem we have is that we don't have any money in the budget for this project this year. Unless I misunderstood Hillary and Courtney, I don't think we didn't make any provision, and there's not a lot of slack in council's budget this year.
Yeah, that's correct, John.
So I would very much like to proceed with it. And if we have to, and quite frankly, the way things are going, next year's is probably as good as any to get them into the marketplace. And we can budget for that and see if we can get council to provide a bit of printing money for that.
Okay,
Any other comments?
So everyone, I think for the status / timeline update, if we can get a cost for that, then we can propose that. I can find out when the budget meeting is for this year, for the 2022 budget, and we can propose that as an item. So I will add that to our status / timeline updates for this project.
Yeah, I'll send you around the quote from I think it was Print 3 that gave us the best quote. One of the quotes was outrageous. I thought it was so high that I felt like I was investing in the company. Anyways, we won't bother with that one, but Print 3 was very cooperative and was quite prepared to do the job. And I've kind of kept them in touch that it may take a bit of time to get the budget in place, and they were fine with that.
Okay.
I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Recently, Barb shared with me a copy of the 1905 County of Wellington Atlas and made an interesting comment that these may have been produced and sold as a fundraiser or at a commemoration of a particular event. And I was wondering, as we think about printing up this poster, is there something, an event coming up in the next year and a half that we could tie the launch of this to, or an activity that this committee is involved in on an annual basis that we could target the release of this poster to? For example, the pancake breakfast, if and when it comes back, there's often displays by different community groups. Would that be a place to target a time for launching the reissuing of this, so that we have a target, a goal, not just a price, but actually a timeline goal?
I don't think we've established it yet, Matt, but it's a very good point. And there are several items that could be reproduced and presented. And I think we should think about, other than just doing it online on the website, how are we going to market these things to get a broad distribution? And the point's well taken that we should target various events to make people aware that these things are available or will be available.
Mr. Chair? Hello, John, if I could make a comment to that?
Yes.
I think I like your idea, Matthew. I think there are several opportunities within the community. I think partnering with the Historical Society would be a good venue, and they have a couple of interesting events planned, which have been postponed, that I think I think the partnership would work very well. So I like the idea of both the chair and yours, Councillor Bomer, taking these forward and matching them with other events, hopefully once we open up again.
Mhm.
Well,
Thanks.
can I jump
Thanks,
in here?
Barb. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, because we talked in the front end about these things, about what we're actually going to do with them. We went everywhere from giving them away to selling them for big bucks. I think we should, maybe see if we can come up with some more promotional kind of ideas with them. Like I'm thinking, for an example, one thing that we're not going to be doing anytime soon is visiting properties to establish heritage criteria and just explore the community. I mean, we just can't do it anymore for the time being, and we may not be able to do it for a long time. So I was thinking, could we use these posters and maybe the Atlas item that Matt mentions as well as some kind of a perk to get people to come to us with their heritage? Something that we could promote in the Pioneer or at any of these events, and use the poster as kind of a giveaway for someone to come forward with something that they think might be heritage worthy that we should know about. I think we're going to have to start reinventing ourselves a little bit, because we're not going to have the access we used to enjoy. And as far as the Doors poster goes, a lot of that work has been done for us already. It's excellent. The pre-marketing is excellent. It hangs in the library. I talked to the ladies in there about it. People come in and they talk about it all the time and say, hey, can I get one of those things? If those things were suddenly available and, we established a price point, I don't know what a fair price point would be, $20, maybe something like that. And the fact that they're available, now the thing is kind of fluid and it's kind of in motion, and we could start using it as a promotional type of piece for the committee and for what the committee wants to do moving forward in post-COVID times. So that's just a few thoughts.
Good. Well,
John,
yeah, sorry, Mary, I can't. You're gonna have to yell up because you're. I can't see you here. You haven't got your video on.
I
But go
don't.
ahead.
You can't see me?
No, I can't see you. Can anyone see Mary?
Well, the screen
No.
sharing is still on.
Yeah, no, I've got you in the side column.
I mean, I've got my
Got it.
video and audio on. Anyway,
It's okay. Okay, we know what you look like.
so 2025 is the 175th birthday of Whistling Township. And my thinking is that we need to make that a bash from the Heritage Committee. I think we should plan for multiple activities and certainly incorporate this poster into them. So I'm thinking along those lines that this is not simply a one-off, but it's a part of a larger kind of multi-pronged way of getting the township engaged in its own heritage. When they were produced, they were sold for $20 a piece. I know that, so that's all I have to say.
Well, there's some tremendous ideas here, and I think if we step back, one, Hillary, could we get a list of coming events for the next 12 months, whatever's available that the township is aware of? In fact, I throw this out to all members of the committee. Anything that you can think of that this would fit in would be just tremendous, because John's right, we do have to reinvent ourselves in all likelihood. I like the idea of using the poster as basically a promotional tool, among other things. And it's just some great ideas, but if we could start with all of the venues that the committee members can identify, that'll give us some targets to go to. Any other thoughts on that?
Yes, if I could, Mr. Chair. Oh, go ahead, John.
No, I was going to say it's a good place to start for sure. It might be a little thin over the next 6 months, but or the next 3 months, but definitely a starting point for sure.
Yeah. Can we offer them to commercial establishments that are in heritage structures so that they have some visibility that way? I'm thinking that, so that it's not just on the web page, but that people can see them when they're going about their lives. So I'm thinking, for instance, the guy who has the barbershop in that beautiful old Morrison building. If there were ways to have these displayed throughout the community, that would be great.
I think I think that's great, for sure, a great idea. The logistics of that are we have to present more than just the poster to these guys. Like the barber shop you're talking about, I know if I was in there once. The one time it was open long enough to actually get in there for a haircut. That poster hanging in there would be a perfect fit. In the main entrance of the Aberfoyle Mill, again, perfect. However, we would have to probably give it to these people either dry mounted or framed, so that all they have to really do is hammer a nail in the wall and put it up. If we just hand them a poster, it could just be a rolled up poster for a long time. So I think that's a pretty serious part of the logistics of the idea, but I love the idea.
I agree with you, John, and I think that we probably should look at building something into the go forward budget to allow us to do that, because I think you're right. You have to take it in nicely framed or mounted so that it can be hung on the wall. Otherwise, it'll just get stuck in a corner or tossed out, whatever, or given away to someone. But it's a great idea. I do like that.
Yeah, for sure.
So then if I could, Mr. Chair, we could look at tying this to the community improvement plan and making, businesses that are, within this community improvement area. There's money that goes wanting in that every year, that this is something that maybe we could tie it to that in terms of our ask. I'm sorry, I'm thinking at the terms of when we put the budget request in. Typically a budget request comes with not just how much money you want, but the purpose for it, how you're going to, that kind of So if we can tie it to a particular, and I like this discussion, if we're going to do it, part of the plan is that we want to make sure that every commercial establishment within the community improvement area has this in their waiting room to improve awareness. Fine, then we might be able to fit it in there. That's good. The other piece I was looking for was that is there not just saying, I mean, we're the Heritage Committee, so we or the Historical Society better than anyone should know if there's something, a particular building or a particular something that's coming up in the next couple of years that we want to tie this as so that council knows there's a deadline for the funding. It's when we're talking about spending other people's money, it's always nice to be able to point to, oh, that specific thing, as opposed to just a mushy thing that goes over a feel good. So that's why I was thinking of more of the ask as opposed to the actual implementation. So for example, if the Envers building or the Morrison building was turning 150 or something this year or next, wouldn't it be a great way to launch and tie it to the ideas you just had, and tie it to celebrating a particularly prominent building like the Mill or that commercial block in Morrison, celebrating that and launching it at that event. That's what I'm trying to think of. I don't know what the dates are for those.
I do.
Yeah, of course, you put the list together. So, but that's what I mean. I think we have all the knowledge. We have more than most have the knowledge to figure that out and put it in the act.
It could also be something that's co-presented with plaques and maybe retroactively. Anyway.
Thank you, Matt and Mary. Matt, I think you're right. That's a great way, and you're absolutely right. We can't just go ask for money. We have to demonstrate that it's going to be used wisely and where it's going to be used. That's a very good point. So, and
if I can just say one thing in regards to the pancake breakfast, etc. I usually. I always have a display. People are there primarily to eat pancakes, and they do eat pancakes and leave. There are a few that spend time with the displays, but I would not see it as a primary venue for selling these. I just, one on display, I'd be surprised if, well, anyway, that's all. That's my experience.
Well, it wouldn't hurt though to have a bunch of them rolled up and available if anybody wants to
you're
borrow
right.
a $20 bill. I mean, we're there anyway, right? So you'd be surprised. I think these things, these things are going to be pretty seriously in demand, based on what I've kind of heard in casual conversations. It's a really lovely poster, and people want it. I think they'll pay $20 for it, and then if all of a sudden there's one there that's available for them, they'll take it. If they don't, we take them back home.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, good. I'll see you at the next pancake breakfast, John.
Yeah, I volunteered to run the one
You
last
did,
year.
and I've not forgotten that.
Yeah, I got preempted.
It's burned in.
Oh man.
Okay, if there's no other comments on that, can we move forward to the Register subcommittee, please?
Absolutely. Okay. Actually, John, sorry, just one more comment on that. Just for the status/timeline update, I think you both Johns can do some brainstorming and kind of create more of that budget proposal item, and then maybe it can be brought back to the next committee by July, just to kind of run it by everybody and make sure that's all good to go, and then we can get that cleaned up, and then it can go to budget.
Thanks, Hillary. Yes, I'll take responsibility for pulling the bits and pieces. I've got it on my machine somewhere because they sent it to me in writing.
Perfect.
And I'll coordinate with John, and we'll circulate it to everyone before the next meeting.
All right, sounds good. Perfect. All right, so the next item on the list is the Heritage Registry. So the subcommittee, actually, they did a really great job with this. This went to the last council meeting. So the list of properties that we'd like to put on that registry, that went to council. I do have a report coming up that we'll sort of talk about the next steps more for that. But it is coming along. Does anybody else in the subcommittee have any comments? I know Mary was there at council, and so was, of course, Matthew.
I think that my comment would be that I was exceptionally pleased with council's response to this project. I felt that they were very supportive. I was pleased that Councillor Bailey asked about properties that might be pending for lists on the register because it had historical significance, but perhaps not architectural significance. And that was a home run for me. So yeah, I had about whether or not they were going to be on board with this, but Matthew, unless I'm totally misread the meeting, I think that we have their full support to proceed.
Okay. Does anybody else have any comments on this one, or can we move on to the next section?
I want to clarify, we're going to talk about the actual list separately. This is just an update on how it went at council.
Yes.
Perfect.
So yeah, we're going to talk about the actual list and then next steps as well.
Yeah, and thank goodness for Mary, because at the last minute I realized I might have to declare. I declared a pecuniary interest. I hadn't had a chance to check it with the integrity commissioner regarding, my mom's property was on the list, and since it was going as a whole, I stepped back so I couldn't answer questions. Thank goodness Mary was available and willing to step in and take those hard questions from council. So, and to her credit, because she put it on, she knew way more about this than I did. We're lucky. I said this at council, and maybe we don't appreciate it because we have Mary, that how lucky we are. might know we like old things, and that's as far as I go. But Mary actually understands why they're meaningful, and that's important for this committee to have and this municipality to have. So it was nice that someone with that depth of understanding was there to answer questions, as opposed to somebody like myself whose drive shed and barn are full of old stuff just because I hate throwing stuff away.
Thank you, Matthew. I think actually we're very lucky to have such a bountiful, a bounty of heritage resources. And that's why I think it's so important that we begin to manage them.
John, if I could make a comment?
Yeah, yes, go ahead, Barb.
Mr. Chair, I would like to praise Mary and the staff at the township. I'm not sure if it was Courtney or Hillary who helped with this, but we now have a document that is so substantial and so encompassing, but gives us so much information in such a short space of time. And Mary, I don't know how you've done it, but in a couple of sentences, you have linked the significance historically, architecturally, culturally, of each of those line items. And I am in awe of the document that you've ended up with. And I think, I've said this to you privately, but I think going forward, this is something that is going to be so useful, not just to us and not just to council, but I think to interest groups within the township. So I'm thrilled at the outcome. And again, Mary, thank you for all your hard work in getting this done.
Well, you're welcome. And I used to say that I found trying to understand these properties was like herding cats, and I actually got them herded. So, and now they're more like sheep. But I have to say that having looked through as many municipalities as I could find to compare statements of cultural heritage value, ours are now the best because they don't rationalize cultural heritage value. They'll just say, you know, it was lived in by so-and-so, or it's an example of something, but they actually don't contextualize it. So not that it was, I did something, you know, extra special. I just did what was asked for. And it really, I think for our purposes, helps us understand these properties in the relationship to others and in relationship to the communities in the township. Anyway.
Thanks, Mary. And I second Barb's comments. It's absolutely phenomenal. You've done a fabulous job. Now, may I ask a question, Hillary? Is this going to be posted on the township website, or is it already posted, or is there an approval process that is required before that happens?
I don't believe that this current one is posted on the township website as yet. I think we're just waiting for it to be, I know we might want to do some corrections to it. And I think we will need to have that passed by council, but then once it is, then yeah, that's definitely something that we can get on the website for sure.
Understood. Thank you very much.
Excuse me, Hillary, do we not need to go through an ownership process before we post them?
Yep,
on the
yep, we'll definitely get to that, Mary. So we are going
Okay.
to do a public consultation for this as well.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the next item on our list is the heritage signage. I do have Barb wanted to talk about that later on in the meeting. She's got some information regarding the heritage plaques. I think with this one, we sort of kind of put this on the back burner. I know we've got a lot of other projects going on right now. Is there any updates on this one that we need to put down on our chart?
Mr. Chair, if I could address that.
Go ahead.
Hillary, yes, I agree with you. I do like the idea of it being on the back burner a little bit for a while. I'm in just some casual observation and outreaching a little bit to the Historical Society. The signage in Puslinch Township is a bit of a hodgepodge. So we've been fortunate that private groups like Women's Institutes have put up beautiful bronze acknowledgements in some places. Also, the Ontario government, for example, has recognized Ellis Chapel. Some of the other signage that we have just look like passing road signs. So I'm kind of on a little reconnaissance just now, driving around the township, having a look at what we have. We do have some sites that are natural spots. We've got about 10 of those signed. We have some signage for the, as I said, the Ellis Chapel or the settlement of Puslinch, also some out by the lake, but I haven't got a sense of everything that we have yet. So I'm looking forward to perhaps to reaching out to somebody at the roads department that can give me a little bit of a hand with this. And again, the Historical Society. So it's simmering, but it's certainly not ready at this point for any conducive report.
Thanks, Barb.
Could I add to that?
Go ahead, Matt.
Just two things, perhaps. I think maybe Courtney can give some, maybe, I don't know if she's not prepared or not for this, but in terms of the township's sign program and where this committee's interest in signage might fit within that ongoing project. And then I have another question on the sign on it in general.
Yes, thanks. Thank you, Councillor Vollmer. So this is just with respect to the signage master plan that the township undertook, I believe, a year or so ago. Yes, we did get an update actually from, there was a committee that was formed for that, I believe, and our Director of Finance, Mary Hassan, kind of spearheaded that project. And we worked with the Obs and Mugs team that designed our website for that as well. And from what I understand, that township signage master plan didn't directly include heritage signage. And so I think the next steps, at least from speaking with our director of finance, would be to maybe investigate that separately if we were to look at some of that heritage signage specifically, and to see where that could fit in and if there's any grant funding or any other opportunities. Does that answer the question, Councillor Palmer?
Yes, and it yes, overall, it provides this committee a template in terms of what the signs can look like or should look like, because so they look consistent across the township. As I think Barb mentioned, she maybe mentioned the sign at Loch Buoy. I don't know if it's an old one or a new one, but that's a natural site that's been signed at, but I'm not sure if it has a modern updated sign or if it's an older one. But I think the idea is that all future signage will sort of fall in line in a similar style as what we did in the sign master plan, right?
Mm-hmm. And then I think we have a really great template from that program and those individuals that worked on the design to kind of kick that off if that's the route, you know, and if there's funding and that sort of thing available.
Super, does that help, Barb?
It does indeed. And just to follow up that comment, Councillor Palmer, certainly the sign at Loch Buoy, there are, I believe, 12 or 14 wrought iron signs like that, which are natural places within the township. And then there are the signs that look more like signs on the 401 along Highway 30, County Road 34, for like Aikenville and Colleen and places like that. And then there's no signage at Badna except for that sign that I believe the community group put up acknowledging at the soccer pitch. So there are definitely inconsistencies, and I agree that following under the master plan, and I'm embarrassed to say I'm not completely familiar with that, but I think we need to have some kind of template and something. The only way that this works is if it's recognizable, and if people can figure out that this is unique to Puss Lynch and this is of interest. So if we can fall in line with something that's already established, I think that makes our ultimate goal that much more attainable.
Great, yeah, I think you'll see, I think there's new signage put up in front of the PCC. There's some new signage around at the entrances to the township that are based on this signage master plan. So they have exactly what you're talking about, a consistent look, so you know it's Puss Lynch Township or Township of Puss Lynch compared to the ones that, you know, the county puts up on the county roads for marking the hamlets.
Right.
So, my other question goes back to the letter that started this discussion in the first place that were received from, I think it was the Gilmore family. Since it's been some time and we've had several discussions, would it be possible for staff to confirm that we've at least sent them a letter acknowledging the receipt of that correspondence, and that the committee is actually slowly, gradually working towards doing something based on their request, or at least giving them up to date of where we are in dealing with their request?
If I could add to that, Mr. Chair, for Councillor Ballmer.
Yes, please go ahead.
Matthew, if I recall, we received that letter in a meeting in 2019 after it was presented to council. So I agree with you. The letter needs to be acknowledged, and I'm not sure whether council has acknowledged receipt of it. And in fact, we should follow up on that. I'm not sure how does that work if somebody sends a letter to council? Who ultimately, is it then deflected to the group of interest and then we respond to it? Is that the correct way to do it?
Well, that's what I was asking Courtney. Perhaps the clerk could update us on
Yeah.
that, and look into it, update us at our next meeting, and if not, if it hasn't been acknowledged, maybe we can update them on the process to date.
Yes, absolutely. Hillary, if you perhaps just want to make note of that in your minutes, just for the record, and then we can follow up based on the council minutes as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
it's easy for us to know what's going on. We're in the box, but sometimes we forget to tell people outside.
Mhm.
Okay, are there any other comments? Okay, back to you, Hillary.
Okay, so we do have the old school surveys. I think we discussed this at the last meeting. I think we just confirmed that they were in the county archive. So I think we're okay on that item. And then we also had we reviewed last time the Heritage Committee terms of reference, and John and Barb are just going to remain in their positions as chair and vice chair for the remainder of the term. And then next we have the public engagement regarding the Heritage Committee and its mandates. So Mary Tivey and John Arnold are on that subcommittee. I think we said to report back at the July 20, the next meeting in July. Are there any updates on that for now?
No.
Anyone have any comments on that?
We'll have something to report in July, won't we, John?
I'm hoping so, yes.
We will.
Okay.
I've got lots of ideas, John.
Well, that kind of goes back to the comments that are being made about marketing of the Doors of Puzzlinch, and all of this kind of ties together in a pretty direct way. And yes, we will have something to report by the next meeting.
Okay, perfect. So then the next item would be any training opportunities for the committee. So as you all know, we are currently signed up with the Community Heritage Ontario group. We got our first newsletter from them a while ago. I think there was a bit of a miscommunication there, and that they had sent a bunch of copies to the township. But going forward, they have confirmed that they will be sending the electronic copies of their newsletter to us. And I'll also continue to look for any more opportunities that might be beneficial to our committee. So that will be ongoing.
Thank you. Any comments? If not, back to you, Hillary.
Okay, perfect. So next we have the preparation of the Heritage Advisory Committee orientation package to new members of council and council committee. So of course we haven't started working on that. I've got Mary Tivey and John Levac listed on that, but that's something that will be worked on later in the year, since next year is an election year. So we will want to have that new package ready.
Okay, any comments? If not, next item, please, Hillary.
Okay, so then we have the plaquing program. And the committee decided at the last meeting that this is something that the whole committee wants to do together, since this is a very important part of what the Heritage Committee does. So essentially, I think Barb, this might be part of your report as well. I'm not too sure. It's part of the plaquing report. But I know that we will have a number of plaques that we can get. And I think we're just looking for the location of where those will be going.
Okay, John, I could speak to that briefly. I think complementing the registry that Mary has prepared, the initial focus, I think, should be on ensuring that the millennial plaqued buildings are recognized. And I'm not sure how we do that. I suppose we know which awards were presented. We'll probably have to update that with the current owners, that plaques were presented to those particular sites. 100 plaques were presented in the year 2000, and since that time, 25 have been placed. And to date, that would be the only registry we have of plaque to house location or property location. Going forward, we have visited a couple of sites This committee has recognized several locations which we would like to write up and plaque, but we have not got to that stage yet.
Okay,
So I think the next thing that needs to be done is in fact a sub-list that complements the listing that has been presented previously, and acknowledging that plaques have been placed on those residences.
all right.
All right, Barb, just to get a timeline for that, is that something, would that be possible to be done by the July meeting? Is that a reasonable timeline for that?
Yes, it is. And I could
Okay, perfect.
look after that. Or the
Okay,
committee.
awesome.
Is it, if I could, Mr. Chair, looking at the existing list, the list does indicate if the property is plaqued or not. Is it just a matter of adding another column to that spreadsheet? You know, plaqued yes or no, and then you can sort it by that when you want to see a list of which ones are and which ones aren't?
Yeah, I think that's definitely something, yeah, we can definitely do that, Councillor Ballmer. That would be an easy add to that.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any further comments? Okay, we can move ahead then.
Okay, perfect. So the next item that we have is heritage property visits. Unfortunately, the pandemic is still ongoing, so I don't think that it would be safe to resume these. So we'll have to sort of continue to monitor the current situation and see when it would be safe to resume property visits.
John, I think you and I have chatted about this, and I think it's fair to say that I think it's going to be quite a while before people are comfortable with strangers coming onto their property.
Yeah, it really is. And I look at, some of the societal changes that we're seeing over the last year and a half with this thing. And some of these things are going to get back to quote unquote normal. Others will not get back to any sense of normality ever. But I think the majority are going to fall somewhere in between. And I really wonder if, 3 or 4 of us walking onto somebody's property and walking around their house and chatting with them, or actually entering their house as we used to, I really wonder if that's ever going to happen again. This could be one of those total casualties of this thing. I hope I'm wrong. But if it does work out that way, we do have to come up with an alternate plan. So I think everybody should just, be mindful of the fact that there's a distinct possibility that visitation of properties, as we've done over the last couple of decades, may not ever happen again. Well, never is a long time, but not anywhere, not anytime soon, that's for sure.
Perhaps we'll have to use drones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you, John. Any other comments on that issue?
Just one, Mr. Chair, you're not far off. The county has managed this type of issue for a long time when it comes to the Land Division Committee. It's a county-wide committee that reviews severance applications. So of course, the members of the committee don't have the time to drive all across the county every time to visit a property when it's subject to an application. So the way they manage that is one person goes out and it takes, sort of a predetermined set of pictures or short video, and those are presented then to the committee for review and comment, and so they can answer any questions. And we may have to look at a model like that, like you said, a Chromebook kind of visit. And perhaps that will help fill in the gap or be the permanent solution. But I think examples are out there.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. I think you're right. And something we'll have to keep an eye on for hopefully the near future. Okay, any further comments on that? If not, we could move on to the second last item.
Okay, so I think Mary's accidentally dropped off the call right now.
I'm back on, I think.
Oh, you're back. Perfect. Okay.
Yeah, I evaporated. I'm coming in through my phone now.
Perfect. Okay, so Mary, we're just on the item. We just moved on to a new item about documenting and acknowledging First Nation sites and heritage. So I think we talked about last meeting about reporting back in October for our final meeting of the year, unless there is any reports from Mary, Councillor Balmer, or John.
Now, Mary, I'll turn that over to you. You've got your finger on this far more than I do. And
Oh,
certainly any comments from you would be welcome.
well, I have written a sample statement that some time ago, a year ago, that I sent to maybe Courtney at that time. And there was, I was told that council needed to come to some sense about this on themselves. And so I was waiting for direction.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, we do have a little bit of an update from the County of Wellington, who's also working on this initiative, and I believe it's what we have been kind of waiting to see. I did follow up with the county planners who had indicated that the county is also working on developing this type of a statement. And they've made some progress, but they're not there yet. And so I think that's what we wanted to wait and see. So I can certainly follow up with them again. I think COVID has just, like everywhere, has just, delayed some priorities, but I can follow up with them again and just check on that.
Okay, thank you. I'm wondering certainly Mary and Matt, myself can prepare a list of the known sites and heritage, First Nation related heritage items prior to that. And I know, and it does kind of tie in with the last item with the land acknowledgement statement. That's all part and parcel of the same kind of thing. Can we?
Oh, John, pardon me. I'm sorry. I was referring to the last item, not the I think not the one that we're actually on the agenda. Document and acknowledge First Nation sites. Is that because I disappeared for a while? Is that the item we're on?
Well, no, we were chatting. Actually, the last two items kind of fit together. Mary, being that we were going to by next October establish various sites within our jurisdiction and report back to the committee with the with that, and it ties into the land acknowledgement statement. So I think the two connect together.
Yep. They are documented.
You want to say that again, Mary? It broke up. Mary's frozen.
Document.
Oh, we're losing people. Thank you. High speed. Don, how are you doing? Are you still on board?
I'm here.
Okay, Mary, you're kind of no, you're breaking up. Barb, how are you doing?
I'm good.
Okay, Matt.
I was just thinking, if we all lose our video and our microphone, does Mary's signal improve?
Yeah,
I turned the video off.
we don't need the video. Okay, I'll cut mine off.
I can also stop screen sharing as well. That might help.
Yeah, Mary, are you back? Hillary, yes, I see you.
Yeah, still here.
Mary seems to be the one that's having a bit of a problem there. I hope she can hear us.
Mr. Chair, I think also the kids are home on April break right now.
Oh,
So I think a lot of them are online and that sort of thing. So I've noticed it's very slow even where I am too. So
yeah.
could be the problem.
Yeah, good point. I hadn't thought of that. Anyways, okay, Hillary, let's move on to get through this.
Okay, well, since that was the last item on our chart there, we'll just need to pass a resolution for that, and then we can move on to the next item on our agenda.
Okay,
So we have got that the Heritage Committee goals and objectives for 2021 to 2022 be received for information, and that staff will follow up with the letter provided to council in regards to signage. And additionally, that the committee approves the Heritage Committee goals and objectives, the status, timeline, and updates, which I will add all of our comments within the status / timeline and updates when the minutes come out for this.
okay, thank you. Any
I
further
move.
comments? You need a motion for that.
Yes, so just
I thought I heard Matt starting to say that he was going to move that.
Yeah, I'll move that.
Thank you. Seconder?
I'll second it.
Okay, any comments? Any discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye.
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 Yeah. Me too.
Carried. Okay, next item.
okay. So Courtney, am I able to share the screen again?
Sure, Hillary. I think it's still enabled. Are you able to, or do I need to go back in?
Oh, no, I'm good. Thank you. Okay,
Okay.
Perfect. So the next item is the Heritage Report. So the Heritage Register progress update. Just let me know, everybody, if you can still see the screen.
Yep, it's there.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
good.
Thank
Okay,
you.
perfect. So this is just an update to the committee regarding the next steps for the Heritage Registry. So this is also attached to the agenda as well. So we brought forward a report to council on March 24th, identifying the Heritage Register initiative. So the report essentially provided background information on the work completed by the Heritage Committee and included the list of properties which would merit the listed status. And it also outlined our timelines for the owner consultation as well as the public engagement. So the resolution was also included for your reference as well in this report. So you can read through the resolution later. So essentially, let's see here. Okay, perfect. The resolution's there. So we have the owner consultation template. It's attached to Schedule A to this report. And essentially that is going to be a letter that's going to be sent out to the owners of the property, essentially detailing the well, I can go to it now. So this is it here. So the stuff highlighted in yellow are the things that are going to change between properties. So we're going to have the date that it's sent out, and it's going to be a unique name and of course mailing address for each of the properties that we want listed on the register. So we're going to give them the description of the property. So that's going to include their civic address, roll number, legal description. So it's the thing that identifies the property. And as well, we're going to include Mary's statements about why we believe this property is a cultural heritage value and interest, so that they understand why their property is going to be on the list. And then we've also included an explanatory note. Now, this is going to be the same on every single letter, and it's essentially explaining the Heritage Act. And it includes essentially why a property could be registered, and then it also explains if the owner would like it removed and what the process of removal is. So it essentially sort of takes away any of the misconceptions that anybody might have about what it means for a property to be listed. So we've got that letter that'll go out. It should take us, I think about, I can't remember what we've decided on, but it shouldn't, about a week or two maybe, to mail these out, because I think there's about 120 addresses. So it shouldn't take us too long to mail these out to the property owners. So that'll be coming out from staff. And then we've also got the whole list in this report of the potential register that was attached to the council report as well. So this is also listed for everybody as well. So also just a note as well, that if there are any corrections that need to be made to this list, they need to be updated as soon as possible. Just because we want to get this process started basically as soon as possible as well. So I've also got a section in the report as well, where we can update the section or update the potential register as well. So if anybody has any corrections, if we could do that during this meeting, that would be great. So once we send the letter out, we are going to collect feedback from the owner consultation, and we're also going to work with the Heritage Subcommittee to address any concerns and any questions that arise. So this will be particularly helpful if somebody's got any technical questions. I know our subcommittee is very knowledgeable about the historical properties here at the township, so that's really going to be great as well. We've also, for public engagement, it's going to primarily be done through our Bang the Table platform. So I'm going to be giving a little demonstration of that later in the meeting as well. Oh, Mary?
We're having a bit of a, I think it's a bit of a download situation here.
I think so. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah,
Yes,
Hillary,
I can hear.
this is really good, actually.
Okay, perfect.
And that, if I'm not mistaken, all of that material that you've shown us is, I think, in the package of information you sent, is it not?
It is, yeah. So it's it's definitely touched the agenda as well. Just wanted to go through it with the committee. So essentially, we're going to be using Bang the Table. There's a tool on there called Questions. So that way, if anybody from the public does have any questions about the process, it allows them to ask it on that platform, and then staff will be able to respond accordingly, at least within 2 business days. That's our goal for that. And if we do require assistance from the Heritage Subcommittee, we will definitely contact the Heritage Subcommittee and get those questions to you pretty much ASAP. And then in addition to the questions tool that will be added to Bang the Table, we're also going to be developing an FAQ page with any questions relating to the Heritage Act and applicable registration, legislation as well. Okay, there we go. Yeah, it'll take 1 week to complete the owner consultation notices. And we're also going to generate the list of FAQs to circulate to the subcommittee for approval as well. And then that we can get posted on our website as well. And then that way the public is able to view those, and I think it would be a good addition to our website as well. That way they, if anybody from the public had any questions, they would be able to look at that, and it would be sort of a good place to sort of understand the Heritage Act and everything that entails for properties that are listed. So we also have later on in the meeting as well, our Bang the Table software, we could also use that as sort of a virtual walking tour. And that would also enhance awareness of our Heritage Committee. It would highlight those listed properties as well. So I'll be showing the committee sort of how that would look. And then once our registry is, I guess, sort of complete and verified by council, that could be another tool that we can use, and we can work on that and get that out to the public as well. So I think that's pretty much it. Does anybody have any questions about the process or concerns or?
Yeah, Hillary, I've got a couple
I
questions.
do.
Yeah.
The letter, this is a letter that's going to go out to all current owners of listed properties. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
And in the letter, the owner is going to have the option of requesting to be removed from the list, right?
Let me just pull up that letter here. I think it's they can object to it, and then essentially that I believe would need to go to council.
Okay, so in a worst case scenario, you said there's 125 of these going out. What if we get 100 back saying I object? Have we not just created a monster project here?
I'm not too sure about that. I think we would have to address that as it came up. I'm hoping that's not the case, given that a lot of these properties have already been plaqued. So I don't think it's going to come as a surprise to many property owners.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. I'm just always trying to think of the downside of good ideas to make sure the good ideas actually get executed.
Mhm, mhm.
Excuse me,
Sorry.
Mary?
Hillary, can you hear me? It's Mary.
Yep.
Yeah. Has that letter already been constructed?
We do have the template here. It hasn't been sent to anybody, of course, as it needs to be approved by the committee.
And was it in our package?
Yes, it was as an attachment to the report within the agenda package.
Okay, sorry. Well, I don't know what, okay, well, I apologize. I don't seem to have printed it out, but I'll take a look at it. Because I think it's, the wording of that is really critical. Attached in Schedule A. Did everyone else get Schedule A?
Hillary,
Yeah,
can
I
I
got
just interject? Or John, Mr. Chair, could I interject for a second?
Yes, Barb, please.
In my package, Hillary, it was not easily identified as Schedule A. However, I do have the letter. I agree with Mary that I think it needs some work. And to address John's concerns as well, I think we have to be very clear that the Municipal Heritage Act mandates Puslinch Township to create this list. I think while we quote some of the legislature here, I don't think we're clear on the direction of how and why these lists are generated. So I think we need to work on this a little bit, the explanation part, going out to the owners. I'm quite happy with the conclusions once the recipient has this document and what they can do. I'm quite happy with those comments, but I just find that under the explanation note, it's still a bit stilted. It needs a bit of work.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Barb. I would second that. Mary, please.
Oh, yeah, okay, now I've found it. I was just so, yes, absolutely. Hillary, I would very much like to participate in making this much more digestible, frankly, to property owners, and making it to their benefit. So I don't know if the administration is open to suggestions from us, but I would like to make some in writing and circulate them.
Mr. Chair, if I may just, for one moment, just add to the conversation.
Yeah.
Thanks, Courtney, yes.
So I think that we can certainly look at the formatting of the owner consultation letter, but bearing in mind that the Heritage Act is quite prescribed about what has to be included in that letter. So it does actually lay out for us what must be included. So there's 4 items that have to be included in that, and we've sections 1 and 2, and then the explanatory note includes numbers 3 and 4. So if we'd like to soften the wording or make it, like Mary suggested, more digestible, I think that is something we can work on, but bearing in mind that there are requirements that have to be included to be in accordance with the Heritage Act.
Addressing that, was there going to be any kind of a cover that explains the Heritage Register? And I know why you've got statements, but is there going to be any kind of a cover that explains that this is a province-wide process, that most communities have these, et cetera, et cetera?
Absolutely. I think that perhaps maybe just in combination with the letter that does, like I am completely understanding what you're saying. It seems very, it has a lot of legislation quoted and that sort of thing, but perhaps the solution is to provide a cover letter that talks about just in plain language, the initiative of the committee and that sort of thing to accompany it. I think that would be a great idea.
Yeah, okay, good. Because, you know, when people, well, we all know when we get a letter from some form of government that says, if a notice of objection, immediately we think about objecting. But I do think that this needs to be contextualized in such a way that that homeowners won't be alarmed by it, but rather be reassured by it.
Thanks, Mary. I would like to throw my 2 cents worth in on that. Absolutely correct. If I received a letter like this, my back would be up instantly, whether it was right or not. And I do understand, yes, it's a legislated type of thing, but I think Mary's absolutely correct. This can be delivered with a spoonful of honey. Lead people down the path of righteousness so that they understand what this is all about. And yes, we can put in what is required by law to put in this thing. But Mary, I think you and Barb are absolutely dead on this. It's got to be very carefully worded. Otherwise, as John said, we're going to get 100 objections just on general principle.
And just to add to that, the ministry in one of their background notes or technical notes or whatever for the Ontario Heritage Act actually does have a guide to writing that form of letter. And I can find it somewhere. And this isn't a full committee effort, but I can send it around if that helps. I can certainly send it to you, Hillary.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Mary,
Okay, that I will do.
Mary, could I ask you to sort of you and Barb take this under your wordsmithing abilities, because you guys are really good at this, and you know what to say and how to say it, rather than I hate things written by committee.
Mm-hmm. Well, what I will do, my files are at my other property right now, but I was on Heritage Guelph when we did this work, and I'll look through those files. I'll see how we proceeded with cover letters. We certainly had public information meetings, and we had almost no objectors, if any. I don't know that we had any.
Well, then you did it correctly. So let's lean on your experience, please.
Mr. Chair? Mr.
Yes.
Chairman, I have one question of staff and a comment, if I could.
Yes, by all means, Matt.
Thanks.
Recognize.
If I could, Madam Clerk, just to clarify, you said there's information that must be in there, suggesting that there's a minimum amount of detail we have to provide. Is there any must not include that we're constrained by as we talk about writing one of these, or is it just these are the 4 basic pieces of information that we have to have, and we can put general language around it as we would like?
Yes, Councillor Romer, I would say what you've just stated is correct. I think so long as we hit the 4 must-haves, and it's talking about, the restrictions concerning demolition, that's one of them. And then the objection, how does somebody object? How do they go through that process? What are the timelines for that? We have to also let them know very clearly what that is. And then of course, just the first couple items there, what's the heritage significance, and then just identifying the property. But beyond that, if there's other information to be added, there's no restrictions on that.
Okay, thank you, because it's helpful just to temper the discussion. I agree with everything that's been said. I have something else I'd like to add to that, but also in terms of making sure that the language is as easily understood by the residents as possible while remaining, this is coming from the corporation, it's coming from the municipality, not just from this committee. So it has to remain as neutral as possible to make sure that people feel as comfortable going both ways, so that we don't get 130 objections to 125 possibilities. So, but the one piece I'd like to, that I think most people are most confused or concerned about when it comes to this whole issue, is the idea of interfering with maintenance and renovations and those things. And when you're crafting this letter, I think while I know we're going to have a set of FAQs, but I don't want the mind closed before they get to the FAQs about issues relating to maintenance and renovations. And if we could get that right out of the way at the beginning, that this does not interfere with that, but at the same time, it doesn't qualify you for any grants for those things. Just those are two most common misperceptions I run into when I talk to people about heritage designations or being on a registry of any kind. So thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, good. Move on then, please.
Okay, so
Well,
I
if
do have a resolution. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Matt.
Before we leave the registry, I had some questions and comments about the listings themselves, before we go on to the next topic.
Hillary?
Yes, that'll definitely, that's our next topic on the agenda. I think just for this one, we just need to close it with a resolution. I would also ask the committee as well, in terms of the letter, is the committee comfortable if the Heritage Registry Subcommittee drafts that letter in consultation with staff and in order to get that out to the owners of these listed properties so that we can start that public consultation process?
Brilliant.
Yeah,
Yes.
and Hillary, it's Mary. What's your timeline for that?
I'm not too sure. I think we were looking to start this as soon as possible.
Okay, so I'll just tell you, if you go on to the Ontario government heritage website, there are facts, FAQs, about having properties put on a municipal heritage register. And I'll tell that to anyone else who's involved in making this covering letter. And those are super helpful. So if we can use those as a beginning point of reference, and they say things like, no, this does not mean that you cannot do A, B, and C. Yes, you can still apply for a demolition permit. It will be resolved in 60 days instead of 10. That sort of thing. They've already done the work. That's my point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. I can take a look at that and draft
I'll
something.
send you a link. Hillary,
Okay.
I'll send you a link, okay?
Yeah, thanks, Mary.
Mhm.
Okay, perfect. So I do have a resolution here, John.
Okay,
So
read
whenever
it,
you're ready
please.
for that. Yep, so resolution number 2021-009, that report HER-2021-002 regarding the Heritage Register process update be received for information, and that the committee designates the Heritage Registry Subcommittee to work in consultation with staff to provide a letter to listed property owners to start the public consultation process.
Someone move that, please.
Yeah, I'll move that.
Thanks, John. Seconder.
I can
Second.
second.
Thanks, Barb.
I have a question then.
Any discussion?
Yep.
Sorry, go ahead, Matt.
Is this the point where you want to talk about corrections or clarifications in the listings, or is that a next separate topic?
That would be the separate topic.
Okay,
So
sorry.
yep,
I'll
that's
wait.
all good.
Okay, so we'll leave that as a separate item.
Yes.
Okay, then if there's no discussion, all in favor? Aye,
Favor, yeah,
Aye.
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 carried. And the motion is the resolution is adopted. Hillary?
Perfect. So the next item that we have is the Heritage Registry Subcommittee update. And yes, Councillor Balmer, if you would like to begin with any thoughts on the register as it is as of now.
Thank you, Hillary. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I noted, I'll try to, there's, I guess, 2 or 3 things here. We'll start with the corrections, I guess. I noted that the Little Tract house, farmhouse in Little Tract still has the address, civic address as being concession 4, even though the entrance is off of Wellington Road 34, which causes me some concern that there may be other errors that remain. I checked Ellis Chapel. It seems to have been, it's corrected. But in the current format, it's a difficult format for me to work with. So if I could get it as a spreadsheet, I could buzz through it again to maybe see if there's any of the other ones that didn't get picked up. Is that possible?
Yeah, absolutely. I can send that to you. Actually, I can send the whole spreadsheet to the entire Heritage Registry Subcommittee. So Mary, Councillor Balmer, and Barb, if you would all like to look at that again in an Excel format and just let me know if there's any corrections to be made.
Yes, please. That would be helpful.
Perfect.
Thank you. And I noticed that the format again is in this report is different from the format that went to council. So which is the format that will actually be the final, like what information will be on the final? Because this one's quite interesting. It has the roll number, the lot and concession, plus some additional information associated with the legal description of the lot that was not on the report to council.
I believe the report that went to council was essentially a simplified version of the register, just as not to overwhelm council. But yeah, the report with more information will be the actual register there. The only thing we have excluded from that was, just for privacy reasons, was the mailing address of those properties.
But it has the civic address and the roll number, which I was surprised in a report that's a public report includes the roll numbers. Is that normal?
I'm not entirely sure. I think the roll number was listed for the benefit of the committee, just so you can visualize where the properties were.
Well, because we don't think of them by roll number. Staff may have that, but I don't know. I've never used a roll number to find a property. But I mean, other than at the land registry office.
I think, yeah, I think you might be correct. So the roll number for staff is a unique way to identify it. So within our GIS system, we're able to identify properties as each property has a unique roll number.
Super. So the challenge here then becomes the roll number is attached to a property, but not to a building.
That's correct.
And I seem to recall that some of these properties had more than one building of interest. That's what I'm trying to figure out I couldn't figure out from the way it was. I couldn't read it properly. If there were two buildings on a property that were plaqued, does it show up twice with the roll number show up twice?
I believe so, since the roll number would cover the whole property. But I wonder if there's a way to identify in the register if a single property has two or more buildings that have been plaqued.
Yeah, I'm thinking of one on Arkle Road, perhaps, that has a beautiful stone barn or coach house and the house. I think they're both plaqued, or maybe even three buildings are plaqued. So the other thing,
Matthew, can I speak to that?
Yeah.
That's great. And so when under the Ontario Heritage Act, what is being listed is a property, not a building. And so the property may have more than one building, and that can be identified, but it's the property, not the building.
Oh, excellent. Thank you very much for that clarification. So I just want to make sure that whatever we come up with is sufficient for staff to get the information they need when a question comes in, or a question comes up. So that's perfect. So a demolition permit's attached to a roll number, and then that'll trigger looking at the registry and seeing if the building being proposed will be looked at.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, super. And thank you for including the lot and concession. I think that's so important, especially because Mary's included so many cross references in her listing referring to another lot and concession. And so I was pleased to see that was on this. My last question has to do with the description. Some of them, it just has lot and concession. Some it says Puslinch concession something. So if I were using this as a spreadsheet and organizing it or sorting it to review it, having that extra information would change how it was sorted. So it would change how I'd see it. Now I realize I'm not staff, so it doesn't matter maybe so much. But can you help me understand why some of the listings are just lot and concession and some are Puslinch concession something? And some
I'm
have the
not too
front,
su-
some don't.
Yeah, I'm not too sure why that's the case. The lot and concession numbers, or like the person's concessions, those were all pulled from our GIS system. And that's the legal description that is listed for each individual property.
Considering they're all in Puslinch, I understand. I take a lot more comfort from Mary's comment, though, that I feel much better now if it's the roll number that drives the location, then I feel a lot better about all that other information is somewhat just for those of us who geek out on wanting to know exactly where it is, who aren't staff, which is helpful for those who are searching for properties, but not necessarily helpful for the purposes of the registry. So thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Hillary, back to you.
Okay, perfect. So we will do a resolution for that. So we've got resolution 2021-10, so that the verbal report regarding the Heritage Registry Subcommittee by Mary Tivey, Matthew Bulmer, and Barb Jefferson be received for information, and that the Heritage Register of Listed Properties be updated by the subcommittee. I think that's it for the resolution.
Okay.
Move.
Anyone would someone move that, please?
I'll move.
Second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Mary. All in
Okay.
favor?
Aye.
Carried.
All right.
Okay, Hillary.
Okay, so the next item that we have on the agenda is item 10.4, Doors of Books Subcommittee update, which is by John Arnold and John Levac. Is there any other updates that you would like to provide to the committee in regards to that project?
John?
No, I think we've talked that one right through for the time being.
Agreed. Hillary, do you need a resolution on that?
Yeah, we can definitely do one.
No,
So
if we don't need to, don't worry. Because I think it just, there's no point in putting a resolution in. John and I will report back when we have a little more information on.
okay, perfect. Yeah, and I do believe we've already talked about it. Okay.
Thank you.
So
Next item?
Yep, next item is 10.5, Heritage Plaques by Barb. So
Thanks, Hillary. Thanks, Mr. Chair. I wanted to report to this committee that I have visited Standard Brass. They have the pattern for the heritage plaques for our committee. I took in all of the plaques that I could find, and we're going to end up with 7 plaques to be cast and polished. So that means 7 brand new plaques. I had 5 pieces that needed some work. They had been cast and they needed to be polished. So what we're doing is we're having them molded at Standard Brass in Guelph. They have a contact that will polish them. Based on our conversation from our October 2019 committee meeting, we had decided that we would go forward without the black paint on the plaques. Some people like the black paint, some people do not. We find it does not stand up to the weather, and the homeowners tend to just leave the plaques as they are. So the recommendation is that we go forward without the black paint. Instead, these will be solid bronze cast plaques. And I have 1 in storage right now. So at the end of this process, it will give a total of 13 plaques. And I will in fact be exhausting our dedicated budget item of $2,000 for this expenditure. I have
Okay.
submitted a purchase order to the township staff to cover this, as we had talked about in our previous year's budget item.
Thank you.
So
Thank
in
you.
total, the cost of refurbishing 5 pieces, producing 7 more, will be $2,000, including HST.
Thank you, Barb. Any comments?
I just have one comment. Is this a go now then, Hillary?
Yeah.
I believe staff still need to review this, but we can definitely get back to you, Barb, and we still have to, I guess, look into it a little bit more on our end. We did get your
Okay.
email though, for sure. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's sort of my comment too. Are we going to get the budget to do this?
I believe heritage plaques were something that was already in the budget for this year, so I think
Excellent.
we're good on the budget end. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. Thanks, Hillary. Would you like a resolution on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got resolution 2021-11, so that the verbal report regarding heritage plaques by Barb Jefferson be received for information.
Moved? I'll move that. Seconder?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in
Let's move
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mhm.
Okay, carried. Next item, Hillary.
Perfect. So item 10.6 is regarding Pioneer Cemeteries, and this is a verbal report by Mary Tybee.
Hi, thanks, Hillary. Simply put, I continue doing research on these cemeteries and publishing about it with the goal of having these cemeteries listed on the municipal register and, if possible, plaqued. That's it.
So if I could ask a question, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Matthew, please.
This raises an interesting point. And I'm sorry, some recent activity by the province made me think of this, where they produced some mapping that shows certain types of soil classifications and then properties that have candidate properties. It sounds like what we're building here is that we have a registry, we're moving towards a registry, then a list of candidate properties that will already have the appropriate description in the same format as what we have. And then we could pick from those to move on to the registry. These are all become candidates, and if we set it up in the same format, the work in the future will be a lot less. Does that make sense?
Can I answer that, Matthew?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm hoping that's how I'm envisioning what you're talking about here. Is
I have a file of candidate properties already.
excellent.
Yeah.
And considering you produced this first list, I'm guessing the next one will be produced in the same format, so it'll
Yeah.
mesh together quite nicely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, I got it.
Okay, any further comments? If not, then Hillary, could you read a resolution to accept Mary's report?
Absolutely. So resolution number 2021-12, that the verbal report regarding Pioneer Cemeteries by Mary Tybee be received for information.
Someone move that, please.
I so move.
I'll second.
Thank you, Matt. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, carried.
Aye.
Next item, Hillary. We're
Perfect.
getting there.
We definitely are. So the next item was the Heritage Committee Training Opportunities Update. I've already spoken to this in agenda item 10.1 when we did the review of the Heritage Committee goals and objectives. So I think we're okay on that end unless anybody had any comments.
Any comments? Any further discussion? Do we need a resolution for that, Hillary?
I don't believe so.
I don't think so. I think we're good. Thank you. Okay. Last item,
Right, perfect.
bang
So
the table demonstration. I hope everyone has had a chance to look at the material that I think got sent around a few months ago now. So Hillary, I'll throw that over to you.
All right, awesome. So I'm just going to do a screen share of this. So the township has a software called Bang the Table. So online it's known as Engage Puslinch. I believe we did talk about this a couple months ago. So it's still fairly new. And we're hoping to get as much public engagement as we can just to ensure that people can kind of take a look at what the township and what the township committees are doing. It's a very interactive software. So I'm just going to do a screen share. I did a sample of just a couple of the properties that are proposed on the listing for our heritage registry, just to give the committee an idea of what we can use this software for. This is something that would be worked on, of course, on our end of staff, but it would definitely be helpful as well to have the committee bring forward some ideas on how we can engage the public further with both heritage initiatives and how we can kind of showcase these properties a little bit further. So, okay, perfect. Screen sharing still enabled. Thanks, Courtney. So this is our Bang the Table software here. And we've got a map. I just did a little loop around Victoria and Queen Street of some of the properties that are noted of, I guess, historical interest. So if I zoom out here, the map kind of looks like this. You can see it's got, it's not just Puslinch, it's got other areas as well. But we can see if this green thing here, it shows that there's 6 properties of interest here in Morriston. So if I scroll in, and you just scroll in further, right now we've got them as Navy Stars. This can all be customizable as well. So if I click on this property here, it'll tell you what it is. There's also a feature as well where you can add pictures. We can add a description of the property as well. So all of this can be included as well. So we were thinking this could be good if we wanted to do like a walking tour or a drive-by tour of the different heritage properties of interest. And it would be a great tool kind of to just showcase these properties. Any initial thoughts from the committee on this?
Anyone has any comments on this? Oh,
What?
Hillary, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Hillary, my only comment, I like this software very much. I think it's got tremendous potential. Has the township got funds in its budget to sign up for this particular package?
So the township has already signed up for this. This is a feature that's already included in the package that the township has already signed up with. So this is definitely for our use.
Excellent, thank you very much. So we can start populating this as we learn how to use it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Any further comments? Mary,
Mr. Chair, if I,
sorry, I can't see who's.
I can stop the chair there.
Okay, Hillary, you were speaking. Okay.
Oh, no, sorry, John, it was Barb.
Barb, please.
Mr. Chair, if I could ask a few questions of Hillary as well. I find this very exciting. Now, you mentioned graphics could be added, photographs could be added.
Yep.
Assuming that this project with our registry goes forward, so say potentially by the summer, if there was a time frame that we could actually publish our list, a list of heritage properties of interest in Puslinch Township, and then have graphics assigned with it, how does that funding work? Does the Heritage Committee need to have a summer student then that would load up those pictures into the software, or how do we make this work?
That's an excellent question. I do believe we are looking for a Heritage Summer student. I'm not sure. I guess it might depend on how COVID's going. Staff would need to discuss this more, but that could be a possibility.
And if I could add one more question, please.
Yeah.
And would this complement the county map of heritage places?
It's not linked up to the county map. It's sort of like linked up to, I guess, Puslinch's own software.
Okay,
Yeah, it's an entirely different thing.
so that would be two projects then, if we wanted to load up images, to software that is available to constituents, we're talking two pieces of software that are not compatible.
Yeah, that's right. So this this isn't linked up to the county system whatsoever. Yeah,
Okay.
so it would be sort of its own project and its own undertaking.
Okay, thank you.
May I ask a question, Mr. Chair?
Yes, Matthew, please go ahead.
Thank you, and appreciate, thank you, Barb, for asking those, because it made me realize that even before we have someone putting the pictures up, I know some of us are intensely private. Do we need to get permission from a landowner to put a picture of the outside of their house if their house is not already visible from the road and available through another public source before we put it up on something like this?
That's an excellent idea. I do agree, Councillor Balmer, that permission from the property owner would be needed for pictures.
Oh, thank you.
Mr. Chair, could I address that?
Yes, please, Barb.
So I do get confused about these things, Councillor Bulmer, and thank you for that question. But the Historical Society has a link where all the plaqued houses, the photographs are on their website. So I do find it confusing, and I agree with you. We want to be in compliance, and we certainly don't want to violate anyone's privacy. But it seems to be a convoluted road. We seem to be requiring more ask and more restrictions in 2021 than we had in 2000 when the original plaquing was done.
Oh, if I could, Mr. Chair, I don't disagree, and perhaps the people who had the pictures taken gave permission for the Puslinch Historical Society to use the pictures. I'm just thinking from a municipal perspective. Often we are held to a different standard, and I just wanted to make sure that, you know, it's just a box I want to make sure that the staff thinks of before we start loading stuff up. Yes, I realize it may be available elsewhere on a historical society, but perhaps people only gave permission for the historical society to use that and didn't, you know, think about the township then using it for other purposes. So
Excellent comment. Thank you.
Yeah, that's good point, Matt, because it would be nice if we could just lift what the Historical Society has already published and load it into this this new system. But you're right, the privacy issues, it may have been a one-off, and let's not get people annoyed. by
Mr. Chair.
overstepping our authority. And thank you, Matt and Barb, for that. Very, very good points.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, if I may just add a little bit to that discussion. The Bang the Table software, when we were doing our website photo competition a few months ago, we actually had individuals sign a waiver if we could use their photos that they'd submitted, and perhaps that's the subcommittee could maybe just discuss that or think about that as part of the public engagement tool. If we are sending out some information to owners, do we perhaps want to talk a little bit about how the township and the committee would like to kind of shine a light on heritage and maybe include a waiver or at least discuss that as part of that public engagement?
Thanks, Courtney. Yes, that's a good point.
If I could, Mr. Chair, just to Mr. Levak's point of getting 130 objections to 125 requests for a list. I don't want to grow this to 150 objections. Yes, I know I'm growing your numbers on you, John. But I think staff has an excellent point, but my preference would be that came as a second step. After they agree to be on the list, we'll ask them if we can use their picture.
That's a good point, Matt.
You know, the priority for me is getting it on the registry, and whether we get the picture or not is secondary. If the Historical Society already has it from previous owner or whatever, you know, because all these things can change. But once we get their permission to be on the registry, then absolutely, we're moving in the yes already. So, thanks.
Matt, you raise a really good point, because it allows the committee more communication with the landowners as to why their heritage property is important. just that, you know, a little more contact, a little more context. And I think you're absolutely right. Let's do one thing at a time. Okay, Hillary, do we need a resolution for that?
We do. So we've got resolution 2021-13, that the bank table demonstration of heritage properties by myself be received for information.
We have someone to move that, please.
I'll move that.
Thanks, John. Seconder?
I'll second.
Thanks, Mary. All in favor? Aye.
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 I as
Carried.
well.
Okay, Hillary, back to you.
All right, we are done with our items for the agenda. All that's left is the adjournment and the resolution to adjourn.
Okay, could we have a resolution to adjourn or terminate the meeting?
So we've got resolution 2021-14, that the Heritage Committee hereby adjourns at 2:54 p.m.
Seconded?
I second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, and then we have noted here, the next meeting is July the 5th this year at 1 p.m.
Weather
Yes.
permitting.
Anyways, there we go. Thank you, everyone. Enjoyable meeting as always. Any closing comments before we sign off?
Stay safe, everybody.
Good comment, Mary. Thank you. Yes, and you too.
Thank you.
Keep well, everyone.